Hello, everyone. Welcome back to From Within She Rises. I'm going to first be really Canadian and apologize for not dropping these consistently lately, but I feel like I'm back. I really have centered in and honed in on what we're going to talk about here. I've had a lot of downloads. My brain's been like in expansive exploding mode the last little while, but also in structured get back to it, figure out exactly what this looks like and where it's going, and I think we got it. So let's keep the positive vibes moving towards this podcast. Today we are getting into Hecate. Um, and I'm not talking about Hecate the witch, because I think and we all have a genius, but where my particular genius lies is how I go deep into psychological archetypes and see them as parts of our consciousness, because as within, so without. That means what? That means that everything that we're looking at outside of us is mirrored in some capacity, some spectrum within us. So let's talk about, from now on, we're going to be talking about goddesses, and different archetypes and what they represent within the human psyche and how to embody that. Because I don't think, just like Jesus, that they wanted to be worshipped. I think they're trying to tell us something. So today we're talking about Hecate, not as this external power to worship, but as this symbolic, beautiful mirror of part of human consciousness that can actually stay present in the messy middle. And isn't that basically, I've always said that Hecate for me, it just like feels so much like who I'm embodying. And lo and behold, the other day I had the urge to actually check where that asteroid is in my chart, and it's in my first house. So shocking, right, everyone? Um, but she really does represent that uncertainty before clarity. She represents, can you stay? Do you have the capacity to stay before you have proof that you're divinely held? So before we get started, as always, we're going to drop in. So I invite you to just close your eyes before we enter this threshold energy, if it feels comfortable to do so, and just start to notice the seat beneath you. Notice your feet on the floor. Just notice where you are already divinely held. We're going to take a slow inhale through the nose for 4, and out for 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Again, in and out. In and out. And now just return to your natural breath pattern. Keep your eyes closed. We're going to place one hand on our heart and one in that lower belly womb space. And I want you to imagine yourself at the threshold, at this doorway, at that unknown. Your old identity has dissolved and the new one still hasn't fully formed. We're not quite sure what it's going to look like. We're going to sit here at that doorway, that uncertainty, and just breathe into it. I want you to know that you never had to have an answer before you enter that threshold. You actually never needed certainty. In fact, I'm sure if you look back on your life, you were never certain of all the steps that would get you here. You've always been connected. And just notice how that truth lands in the body. How that proof, the proof that you're looking for, and actually you are the proof. This moment is the proof that you don't need the certainty. Let's take one final deep breath in together and out. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes, come back into the room around you, come back into this conversation. Maybe you're watching, maybe you're just sitting at home with headphones in, trying to zone out your toddlers. Welcome to Hecate. I want first to talk about Hecate. who she is. Maybe I want first to talk about why I'm not talking about her the way most people would. Because for most archetypes, for most of these goddesses that we're hearing about, it's all about worshiping. And if I'm really embodying and living by Yeshua's true words, which is the kingdom is within you, then the goal was always to develop and embody that relationship in myself first. It was never to look at someone else and be like, I could never. And a lot of us call upon these beautiful archetypes to help us when we're uncomfortable. But what if we started to develop the nervous system capacity of these archetypes so that we can embody those things in our lives, those beautiful divine aspects that all are mirrored in spectrums within each and every one of us? And I'm not here to argue about what Hecate is objectively, what all of the old texts tell us that she is. We're here to start looking at these as mirrors of the archetypes that live within us. Because they are there. Those little pieces of you, those parts of you are still there. We're all fragments of the same whole. If we are all one and we're all fragments of that whole, as within, so without, as above, so below, all of these little pieces are parts of the whole. The archetypes are not separate from us. The goddesses are not separate from us. There's still a mirrored piece of that inside of you. They are beautiful, whether you see them as symbolic or you see them as real, true energies. I'm not here to tell you which one to think that is, but one way or another, both of those things are still mirrored inside of you. There's still capacity to have those qualities in you, and that's what we're going to look at over the next forever. I don't know. I've got lots of ideas. Right now we're going to be going through the asteroid archetypes that are actually in the sky that you could find within your chart, which is so fascinating. And then we're going to do who knows what, but I'm definitely doing these ones. So we're going to be at this for a while because I think, again, it's so fascinating to see actually what is this like energy, that this deep psychological energy that's being shown to us that we can find within ourselves. That's what we're here to do. The question here is, in every single week, depending on the goddess, obviously, is going to be what part of the human psyche does this person represent? So what part of the human psyche does Hecate represent? Because I don't believe, like Yeshua, like anyone else, that they're really asking to be worshipped. They're asking you to embody the qualities. And look at Yeshua, for example. Look at Jesus. He's constantly saying that the Father is above him. He doesn't want to be worshipped. He's saying, follow me. And that doesn't mean follow me in like a cult-like sense where I am the be-all and end-all, but follow me in like, do what I'm doing. Walk alongside me. I just always get like the image of the footprints in the sand. So stunning. That poem, it's one of my favorites. It was given to me when I had cancer when I was 9. And it just means so much, so differently to me now. But the idea that when you look back and there's only one set of footprints and you're being held during the hardest parts of your life. But the whole point is actually you are, that divinity lives inside of you. There's an aspect of it. So let's embody that shit. That's what we're doing. So let's talk about Hecate first. And what do we know? What do we objectively know? What do people think that she is? And I have brought her energy into Threshold. Threshold is our membership community. It's freaking amazing. It's awesome. We love it. We do new moon and full moon rituals, and I have brought her into a couple of, I think I did full moon and new moon over this last month. And just that threshold energy. So I have brought her in as that like crossroad moments where you're like in the in-between and you're like, what am I going to do? Am I going to, she never forces. She's just like, hey, I'm here. Do you want to come with me? So she's very often associated with crossroads and thresholds. She's known as like the witch of the witches, torches, liminal spaces, which, let's be honest, humanity lives in the liminal space. This is like literally what we are. We're liminal space. We're like in the middle of, you're never in one identity, because once you've like evolved into the next identity, you're already like onto the next one, if we're being completely fair. Or is that just me? Is that just my manifesting generator energy? I feel like I'm constantly evolving. I've had so many identities that I can't even keep track. I was on a podcast episode with my friend's podcast. He's my friend now after the podcast episode, and his name is Cameron. And the first question he asked me is, "Who are you?" And I was like, "Dude, that's such a wild question, because who the hell am I? I don't know. I've been so many things, and that's the truth. I've been so many things, and I've had clients, like past clients that have known me from the women's health world, that have been following me for like, I don't know, close to a decade, where they're like, the one thing I love about you is that when you like flip the switch into this new identity, you just go all in, and it's like you just drop everything." And I'm like, yeah, that sounds like me. I literally have been so many damn things. I can't be the only one. Please tell me this. Um, but yeah, she's this liminal space, and we live in this liminal space where we're always in the middle of a new manifestation of some kind. You're manifesting some new reality. Every day is liminal space. She's also, like I said, witchcraft, underworld guidance, very much like she doesn't force you to. And there's lots of mythology around her helping people cross through like hard times. So to me, yes, the themes are very, very in your face to me if you're paying attention to what Hecate is actually doing. And if we then remove Hecate, can we still do that without her? I think this is what I really want to drill in as an archetype, as like the psyche. If you remove the archetype, is there a part of you that will allow yourself to be held? Because we see her in quite a few different myths. One of them is Persephone, right? So she's abducted into the underworld. Hecate hears her cries. Later, she does help Demeter search for her using her torches. She helps her go into the underworld. Once Persephone does return, you see Hecate becomes her companion, her guide every time in between the worlds. So what is she doing there? She's witnessing descent. So yes, I see why that is like she's very liminal space. She's helping navigate that. She's helping you navigate the messy middle. She's helping you have the capacity to stay. Okay, then we see her in Jason and the Argonauts, which is a very famous Greek myth. Jason's on this quest to, it's not thread, it's fleece. It's golden fleece, I believe. And she plays a very significant role in this myth because she's the one who gives Jason the advice and all of the magical items that he requires in order to actually do what he's supposed to do on this quest. This is the same thing with Orpheus. Orpheus is a musician who is known for his stunningly beautiful music. And his wife is bitten by a snake and she dies, and he's heartbroken. He's like, I'm going to go into the underworld. I'm going to get her. Hecate gives him what he needs, the guidance. She tells him he cannot look at his wife when he's starting to come back up from the underworld. Does he follow that? It doesn't matter. We're not going to go into that. It wasn't up to Hecate to actually convince him to do the thing, whether he did it or not. We also see her in Theseus, I think is what it's called. He decides to volunteer to defeat the Minotaur, and Hecate helps him to prepare for this journey. So what does this tell me? Like, what is the common psychological theme here? What is the theme? Like, what does she represent in our psyche? Anyone, any guesses? This isn't a workshop, but to me, this is the capacity to know you are held. Because she, in that moment of uncertainty, gives everything that they require in order to move into this new identity, in order to get to the other side of whatever their mission is. And I'm using identity because you're probably not on some quest to find some golden fleece, right? Or your wife who's been bitten by a snake and is sitting next to Hades. But the reality of it is that she provides it all. And it's interesting because let's back it up. What do we know about her? Because we know what she's known to help with, but I want to understand why she became the thing that helps with that. Because I feel like this is the relevant part. Because right now we are often like spirituality, witchcraft, everything is very much pointing to her being a witch, a key holder. Like when you're ready to go through this door, she's got the keys. You just got to ask her for the keys. She's the guide through. But okay, I understand why she became that. But the question is, what transformed her into the thing that walks you through the messy middle? Because that's what she is. Let's be honest. She's the one that's standing there and you can go and ask her for advice and she'll give you the advice. It's almost as though we need like a stand-in because we're not going to listen to our own intuition. You know, it's just fair. Like we all need whatever we need. But I am in the game of offering you internal sovereignty, not external sovereignty. So let's figure out why she is that archetype, why she is the one that when we are in the messy middle and we're like, oh my God, I can't believe, like, I don't know how I'm going to get to that thing. And we sit there, whether we call upon her in a circle or we just call upon her in meditation, whatever it is, like, why? Why is it her? So let's go back to Hecate. Who is Hecate? We don't know that much about her origin stories, and like there is a lot of modern takes on it. I have one, I don't know where the book is, but I have Nikita Gill's novel. It's stunning. It's not with me right now. I think it might be downstairs. I think I was reading it down there because I don't see it on my bookshelf. Anyways, it's a beautiful book. And what we do know is that she's born of, well, what we maybe know is that she's born from two titans right into basically a war, right? There's a war ensuing, and in Nikita's version and in some of like the modern takes on it is that her mother in the midst of this war goes and asks Hades to hide her in the underworld, and he does. And that's how she becomes the underworld. But let's like back it up because we're not really sure. What does happen, however? Like, what do we do know? We know that this goddess is born into an uncertain time. One might think that we are in uncertain times. One might think that there's a lot of parallels here if you're born into this time. So anybody listening to this, you are born into uncertain times, right? She's born into a time where the Titans they're going to fall and the Olympians are going to rise. Olympians? I feel like, yes, Olympians. And what happens? She doesn't become a victim. This is where she's very different from other archetypes because we all talk about like how to use her, but how do you embody her? That's what we're being asked. How do I embody her? And then I need to figure out, okay, what is she? Not what are people using her for? And there are different ways to use her. I'm not telling you to stop asking for advice. I'm not here to tell you what to do. But I am here to question, why is she the person that you're going to advice for? Do you not want to be that person for yourself as well? Right? So she's born into these uncertain times from two titans as titans are falling. And yet somehow she survives it. She doesn't become the victim of the story. She has the capacity to stay in this disorienting middle and is taken under the wing of Zeus. And now Zeus is protecting her and Zeus takes her in. So now she's being protected by an Olympian, even though she's a Titan. And like, what? What's going on? What is going on is this goddess had the capacity to stay in the messy middle. She knew she would be held, or she surrendered to the present moment and allowed that guidance to lead her. Because she didn't need guidance outside of her. She didn't need help. And that's why you are going to her for help. That's why it is very common for her to be the person that we say, hey, you've already done this. Can you give me guidance here? I need help. But what if we look at the psychological breakdown of somebody who can get to that point, who was that for themselves? Because that's what we want to be, right? We want to embody that energy. She is the energy, the psyche at the threshold that can actually stay present, that can be born into chaos and say, okay, I have no idea where this is going to go, but I'm not going to collapse into it. My nervous system can come back to neutrality. I can surrender into this moment and be held by something outside of me, which is interesting because when you're calling upon her, that's what you're asking for. You're asking for an external to hold you so you don't collapse in this in between. And I'm not saying if that is important for you, beautiful, but also how do we start harnessing that energy within ourselves? Because it is there. As within, so without. As above, so below. I might say that a million times during this entire series. So the guidance She doesn't need guidance outside of her because she surrendered to the moment. And we don't know a whole lot about her story, but we do know the basics, which is she's born into chaos. We're born into chaos. Let's be honest. We're all born into chaos. She does not fall into victim. She builds the capacity to stay in the uncertainty, and she is divinely held because at the end of it, she actually ends up being under Zeus's wings, not actual wings. I don't think Zeus has wings. I'm a little rusty on Zeus, so don't take me for my word here. So the question is, if you want to embody her, can you build the capacity, the nervous system capacity to walk through that unknown, that terrifying, messy middle, which is literally our lives, without abandoning yourself? We want to build the ability, the nervous system ability to remain connected in that chaos, because the alternative is you get overwhelmed because you were just born into war. This is very relevant right now, actually. you were born into war. You get overwhelmed by this, and now you collapse. You don't think you're held. And let's be honest, a nervous system that is collapsing into fight, fawn, whatever it is, freeze, any of those states, a nervous system that collapses in that way is making radically different decisions and choices than somebody who can stay present in the chaos and actually hear that inner knowing and that inner voice that's saying, go this way, let me surrender to that voice so I can actually freaking hear it. It is very radically different. And a lot of us think that transformation only begins when you're absolutely certain of where you're going. But like I said in our drop-in before this, is that I could not pick one moment in my life, not one in my past, where I could be like, oh, let me jump in here and let me ask that version of me how to get to this moment at 4:58 p.m. Atlantic Standard Time on May 18th. That let me ask her all of the steps that got me here. My entire life has proven to me that actually transformation involves zero clarity. Zero. Your initiation is the messy middle. And if we can consciously be there, you end up under the wings, metaphorically, I think, of Zeus. And you don't have to call out for help. The help is there. It's not that you're not getting help. It's not that there's not like an inner knowing and an inner voice in the divinity that's guiding you in the higher self or whatever you're calling it, universe, but you hear it. You don't have to seek it because it's constantly like, those beautiful synchronicities. That's what it's about. It's constantly guiding you and pulling you towards your best and highest version of self. It's pulling you through, guiding you through the messy middle. And then you start to realize that the messy middle's flippin' beautiful, because every time your coffee spills, it's not a huge thing that pulls you out of alignment. Then now all of a sudden, like, this is the worst thing ever. You're not constantly in fear. You're not constantly reacting. Your nervous system can stay. To me, Hecate represents the nervous system that has built the capacity to stay in war. And life is war in a sense. It's not war. It doesn't have to be war because you don't have to be constantly fighting everything that's happening to you. And that's the point. So to me, she is the part of you that can come back to breath, that can spill the coffee and be like, oh, that sucks. But then I'm still here. My feet are still on the ground. My daughter's still adorably out there giggling. I don't want to yell at her for that. It's like, yes, it's interrupting my vibes, but it's so precious. And I can come back to self. She's a part of you that can have the shitstorm and come back. And to me, like, she's the part of me that I had to build that capacity because I would get in cross-legged, beautifully meditating for an hour. Somebody would come in and interrupt me and I'd flip out. And then I'd be like, none of this meditation counted because it had to be for an hour. And now I have to start over. And now this didn't count. And I'd be so hard on myself. And I'd be like, why are you even doing this? You did this wrong. You're a failure. All these stupid things. And now realizing that in that reaction, eventually I was like, wait, why am I even meditating? Like, actually, why am I meditating if when that happens, I can't come back to the state that I'm trying to teach myself I'm capable of? I don't give a shit if you can meditate for an hour. Can you meditate Can you come back to stillness? Can you build the capacity to breathe when your 4-year-old's pulling your hair, your dog's licking the inside of your ear, and your husband's yelling at the 2-year-old? Can you be present in that chaos so that you can still hear that inner knowing that's like, oh, you need to do this and you need to do that and you need to do this and like go this way. Like the other day, this has nothing to do with this, but it's just like an example of like being guided, like the synchronicities or whatever. Like you have all the answers in your consciousness, I'm telling you. And my kids were being chaotic and it was just chaos. And then my 13-year-old came up and she was like, I want to go tanning. I'm going to go lay on the trampoline. Like she's almost 14. So she's like, I'm going to go put a bikini on. I wish you had that. That we've got like this carrot crap. She's like, I wish you had that. And I'm like, we do have it. And I go outside to where I think it is in the middle of this chaotic chaos. And the 4-year-old's trying to come out in this and the dog's like escaping. And I'm like, ugh. And I'm like, okay, I don't find it, and I'm breathing, and I come back into more chaos, and then all of a sudden I get this thing come in that's like, it's in the diaper bag, and I go outside. I don't even know why it would be in the diaper bag because I don't remember putting it in there, but lo and behold, it was in the diaper bag. And that's a very silly example of it, but that's the point. Is like when you can stay present in chaos, the answers come through. Even if it's, carrot lotion that you're going to put underneath your sunscreen. I don't know. Like even if it's a big decision that you need guidance on, like moving across the country, that was a big decision that I made on a whim, being guided. Those two extremes, it's the same thing. Can you stay quiet enough in the chaos to be hearing and be held? Because you're always held, but you have free will, which is unfortunate sometimes. It's not unfortunate, but it's the reason why we tend to choose fear because collectively we're more activated, but you get a choice to start embodying the energy that is Hecate. Not calling Hecate in, but can I become that energy as well? Not the part where she is the woman that guides us in, that like has the keys, but actually you had the key the whole time and all you had to do was embody what she was doing, which was staying present and being guided into eventually Zeus's arms, wings. I don't know. I think underlying all of this, underlying all of my work, if I had to sum it up into a thesis, it is that humanity is constantly passing radical responsibility to the next person and the next person. And I'm just here trying to show you where you're handing your power away and trying to bring you back to sovereignty. And one of the biggest things that creates that dysregulation and pulls us out of our own sovereignty and our own power. And I think people get confused because it's like, do you want to be part of the integrated whole? Because you're already part of the whole, but we want it to be integrated. And in order to be part of the integrated whole, we actually have to have a really healthy self, right? This shell that is me doesn't go away, not in this human experience. And the word came all the way in to incarnation. And so you need to have an integrated self to be part of the integrated whole. That's what we're doing. But uncertainty really is very dysregulating to most people. They want certainty. Like if you look at the Bible, the very thing that the devil asks for is certainty. Can you prove yourself? If you're this, can you show me? Like, where's the proof? It's very much like uh, Thomas the disciple, let me put my hand through the wound in your wrist or palm or whatever, wherever the nail was. It's very much that energy. That's what we are collectively, is like we need someone else to show us the way first. But honestly, if you need that and you can't be present in the stillness, which is where you'll have all those answers, but that stillness needs to be available to you in the shitstorm. You can't just be dysregulated and it's kind of like taking one step forward and two steps back every time. And this is what I mean. If you are dysregulated in real life when shit hits the fan and you just like react and you're like, oh my God, I don't know what's going to happen. This is horrible. This sucks. And you get dysregulated, whether it's uncertainty or it's a spilling of the coffee, you're taking two steps back from maybe the ability that you this morning you could meditate and you were all zen and blah, blah, and you heard some answers come through. But when we step into real life, which is all of that time outside of meditation or whatever it is you're doing, yoga class, kayaking on the water, or some of my faves going for forest bathing, which is literally a walk in the forest. Whatever it is you're doing to regulate yourself, all of the time outside of that, which is 99% of your life, is the messy middle. And that means those beautiful connections and those beautiful answers and the beautiful things that you said that you were going to do and that connected the dots that connected in your brain when you were still, you're not going to act on them. You know why? You're going to take two steps back because you're going to be dysregulated. So you're going to keep coming back to, let me go back into meditation. Let me call Hecate back in. Let me call another goddess back in. Please help guide me. And I'm not saying that's not a great idea sometimes. That's not what I'm saying. But can we also stay in the messy middle so we can act upon it? Okay? Because when we don't feel like we're connected, that's like the first point. It's actually not the lack of radical responsibility. We don't take radical responsibility for our actions in the moment, for our triggers, for our dysregulation, because we don't think we're connected internally to the divine, to source. And I even that was a subconscious thing that I just rewrote recently because I really realized that at my deepest sub basement, I still didn't think I was divinely held, which is insane. I'm preaching it and I was like, whoa, now I really do feel it. But yeah. And interestingly, when we're dysregulated, we don't feel like we're safely connected. And now we're trying to search for something outside of this, right? Somebody else tell me first. And that could be a teacher. It could be the right person that's going to tell you exactly what to do. But the whole point is they can't tell you exactly what to do because they haven't lived the exact same life as you. They don't have the exact same circumstances as you. They don't have all of the past, and you're probably not telling them every little thing because you don't even remember every little thing that lives in your unconscious, deep in that sub basement. Maybe you're looking for the right sign. How many times have I seen spiritual gurus being like, oh, don't trust your sign, don't trust your visions or your dreams unless you ask for a sign after. What do you mean unless? You're literally saying, I don't want to, I'm passing the puck to someone else. Hopefully there's a synchronicity. You need to work on your capacity and your trust and your surrender in God and yourself, whether or universe, whatever you're calling it. And I want to say also, this isn't about good versus bad. There's not one thing that's better. I'm saying, hey, why don't we also build the capacity to say? Why don't we also build the ability to embody these parts? As within, so without. You're seeing what's so without. You're seeing what's above. You know it's within. You know as below, as above, so below. You know it's below and you are the below. Why aren't you also embodying those pieces that are mirrored in you at some capacity? And if anything, I feel like anybody who's guiding or anything is also acting as Hecate. Maybe you're not in the underworld, but you're acting as a guide to somebody who's still trying to find themselves. My favorite part of my job is not being right because I'm not right. I am right in certain aspects and I'm wrong in others because it depends on the lens that you're listening from. That is the point. The best thing that ever occurred to me was that I realized that I was misunderstood in some fraction by every last person listening to me. Every single last person. Because the shit that's coming out of my mouth is also dependent on all my relationships and all of my lived experience. And so I'm using language to describe things that are indescribable. And I'm using my language that is dependent on my experiences and on my lived life and my relationships. And you're receiving it based on yours. And that was the most freeing thing I ever had was and nobody's going to understand me except myself. And I don't even understand myself because my lived experience has taught me that when I look back from a regulated place at a point where I was dysregulated, there was so much I wasn't seeing. So much. So what I really want you to get from this is if we never learn how to stay with ourselves in the shitstorm, we will forever keep outsourcing our authority to someone else, to something else. And truly, the moment you do that, the moment you need something outside of you to say, this is okay, you have fully handed your sovereignty off. And the only person that can get that back, because the person there can be like, I don't want this. I don't want it. The only person that can actually get it back is you. So what is Hecate's main gift, skill? I don't know what to call it. I would say it is surrender. And I'm not saying surrender like, fuck it, I'm not going to do anything. I'm saying surrender like I am held. I don't have all the answers. I'm allowing myself to be led. Surrender is faith to me, which is the opposite of certainty. It's full, blind trust in something that you can't see, whether you think that thing is in you or out of you, whatever it is. It's finally not blocking what that is. It's the willingness to stay when it's uncomfortable as shit without trying to control what it's going to look like. And even when you do try to control what it looks like, it never looks the way you think it's going to look. Let's be honest. Even when you do take off all the boxes, you can never be 100% certain. It's surrender is the ability to trust before there's any proof of how this is going to frickin' turn out. That is faith. Isn't that the whole point? The opposite faith, certainty. Yeah. So the question is, for those of you who are or have been religious, do you have faith? Because Hecate proves she did. And that's the energy we want to bring forth, is faith, is surrender to the moment, to the present, which is where all the answers lie, which is where you can be led, is only right now. You can't be led in the future or in the past. Maybe you can look back in the past and be like, oh, there was a sign there. Let me see if I can lean into that right now. But the true magic happens right now in the liminal space, which is literally the present. The present is the middle ground between past and future, what you think you want, and the things that you think happened, but probably didn't happen exactly how you think. It's the messy middle. So for us, control means like I need to know what's about to happen before I actually take my actionable steps. And if that's really, do you think successful people do that? Successful people act. They might think they know, but they act. You can't possibly know. You cannot possibly know. Collapse will tell you that you can't move until someone else saves you. But that Hecate energy, the one that we're trying to embody, is going to say, I can stand here. I can breathe. I can listen in the chaos. I can take the next step when it appears in front of me. Not, I'm going to figure out what step comes first. I can breathe. I can be held. I don't have to be the victim of this moment in time. I am held. Okay, so I wanted to add a little controversy, because what is a From Within She Rises episode if we're not controversial? What is a Jessie K anything if I don't just say the quiet part out loud? Very Scorpio rising, very I don't give a shit, let's go. And so the controversial thing that I want to bring up is witchcraft versus kind of priestessy energy. And is there a difference? And I'm not saying that it's not, you can be into witchcraft. I've been studying a little bit of it. It's so fascinating. I personally really love rituals. I really love them as like ways to step into that energy. But then the question is, I think that the very fine line and the difference is witchcraft and the use of that. And again, I'm still saying I love some rituals. Okay. Love it. I'm fascinated by it. I would not call myself a witch, but I love rituals. I love, a nice Sabbath where I'm lighting candles and doing journaling and some breath work and sometimes a shamanic journey. I love that. Okay. Um, but it's very much, or can be, externalized power, right? You've got tools, you've got the candles, you've got the herbs, you got the, again, beautiful. I use them all the time. I've got a little money bowl I made right there. It's got some herbs that mean certain things. And like the brain, the human mind loves symbolism, it loves ritual. So like, why wouldn't I do it? um, but yeah, it has like the externalized tools, the herbs, the different goddess energies that you're calling in, which I'm saying, like, there's a reason why we have Hecate in there, because she represents the guide in the shitstorm, in the in between. She has the key. She's going to help you. She's stunning and beautiful. Um, and it's all of these things outside of self, right? The force, the power is outside of you. Whereas to me, the next, I don't want to use next evolution because I use both. So the the difference of what I'm inviting you into is more like priestessy, in the sense that I have played with these energies. I have tapped into this power that is this goddess. But now can I bring it into my life? Can I incarnate? Can I word became flesh this shit? That's what we want. There's no reverence in this mouth sometimes. That's what we want, is I have felt this. And it goes, whether you're thinking about Jesus and you're worshiping Jesus, beautiful, amazing, continue to do so, if that's what you want to do. But also, can you walk the path that he did? And this is the same thing here as we're talking about with Hecate, is beautiful. I can call when I'm having a shitstorm and I just can't regulate and I need some help and I need some symbolism. I need some like deeply rooted grounding practices. Let's get some candles out. Let's like set up a beautiful altar if you want to. Let's do the thing. But then can I embody it? Right? Can I call her in? And then when shit hits the fan tomorrow, can I remember what her energy really is underneath all of that guidance? Can I remember what got her to be the goddess of guidance? I'm using that term loosely because that's not what she is, but of the crossroads of actually taking the first step. Can I embody that in my own life? Or am I going to take 2 steps back and then tonight I'll do another ritual or I'll do some journaling. And then tomorrow when my ego comes in and is like, you don't want to do that. This is more comfortable. Let's just stay here. We're not going to do that step. I'll just fall into it and I'll collapse again. And then I'll call her in again. No, let's also simultaneously embody the energy that made her this goddess. Yes, because it's in each and every one of us. That is part of the psyche of our collective consciousness, and it's part of yours. That priestess energy, it does not worship the threshold. You're conscious at it. That's what we want to call in. We're not begging our archetype, our goddess, or we're not begging for power. Please, please help me. We're asking, what is capacity? We're asking ourselves, can I have that capacity? What does having that capacity reveal? Let's ask that. It's not an aesthetic difference. It's whether you're allowing that power to remain outside of you, or does it become embodied through you? Which the word became flesh is literally that, is like, can I build the capacity to stay in the messy middle so that I can embody all of these characteristics so that the divine can move through me? Whether you're looking at it just as God, or you're starting to realize that God is so multidimensional, that there's so many aspects that I get to play with and bring in and start to embody in my life. And to me, it's not a coincidence that she's the threshold goddess. We are at a threshold now. We're starting a brand new series. This is our threshold moment where we're stepping into, let's build the capacity to stay. And from this place where you build that capacity, you get to actually start embodying all these other aspects. So we're at this crossroads. We're at the threshold. We're choosing, yes, let's embody that energy. I don't want to have to call you in every time. I don't want to take one step forward and three steps back. I want to take all these little, maybe they're smaller steps, but they're steps forward by embodying that. And they're going to be stumbles at first, right? Because let's be honest, and there's constantly going to be stumbles. If somebody's trying to sell you that they can make sure that life is super easy from now on, they're selling you a crock of shit because the messy middle doesn't go away. You know, she didn't snap her fingers and there was no more. And after the war, she was still helping others through their trials because she'd built the capacity to stay. So we don't want to have to always ask. We want to realize that we don't have to ask because we are held, but we don't hear that guidance unless we built the capacity to be held and to stay. So how are you going to start building the capacity to stay? Obviously, if you're wanting to lean in a little more Christian mystic, I have my container Becoming the Word. We just finished the live cohort. But you can do it as a self-paced course, or we didn't just finish it. It is finishing this week. But I will have it available if you're wanting to do it as a self-paced, you'd still be in the community. So that is obviously an option. It doesn't have Hecate in it. So there's that, but it is stunningly beautiful. It's like fully interactive, immersive. It's like lots of different tools to build capacity. It's like 15-page workbooks every week for you to dive deeply into for 6 weeks. But let's talk about real life and how do we build the capacity to say, how do we embody Hecate as the primal force that she is before we started realizing, holy shit, look at her gift. Can you share that with me? Actually, let's embody it. Okay. I would say, let's pause before we're seeking advice. Let's take a second before we go outside of ourselves to say, do you like this or this better? And that's a very simple way to look at it. But yes, let's say you are choosing your logo. Before we go and we ask somebody, which one do you like better? I'm so guilty of this sometimes. Take a second, pause, breathe, and really feel them out because the answers are within you. Before you react to a trigger, can we come back to breath, feet on the ground? You could journal. You could just do it in your head. If you're super neurodivergent like me, probably. I'm not even diagnosed, but my brain, it turns out every time I ask somebody, is this not how your brain works? And they're like, no. And I'm like, oh, okay. Anyways, you could pick up a journal or you could work it all out and you could zoom out and you could see all the patterns and then be like, oh, that's what I'm seeing. That's what I'm feeling. Okay, let's come back. Let's respond instead of react. You can ask yourself, why or what am I trying to make certain? Why do I need certainty? And what is it that I'm grasping at? You could create your own threshold ritual that's like unique to you. A simple practice would really just be when uncertainty rises, you could place your hand on your chest as a grounding, like, hey, I'm still a body, I'm still here, and say, I don't need, maybe in your head, depending on if it's like a relational interaction, I don't need the whole path to remain with myself. I don't need to know what's coming next. I just need to take the next step. That's literally like your whole life is proof of this. Your whole life is proof that you just had to take this next step. That's it. Because if you don't take this first step, you don't take the next step. The next one doesn't involve in the next one. But anyways, that's not what we're here. Secondly, I have created a more like a guided ritual workbook for you. It has some journaling. It has like some ritualistic things for you to work. It has some audio drop-ins. It has like a little somatic drop-in and it has a fuller immersion at the end. So if this episode really stirred something and you were like, holy shit, I love Hecate. I love this energy. I love her as a goddess. And I want to walk deeply and embody this. I have created this immersion and it's going to help you walk through the archetype through your body. And like I said, it includes a workbook. It includes some ritual prompts. There are some short audio activations and a deeper final one, and they are linked in the workbook to help you meet that part of you that's already there. I'm telling you, she's already there. And like I said, if you're realizing, holy shit, I do not have the capacity at all, and you're wanting a little more nervous system regulation, a little more in depth, a little more, I do add some scripture in, but it's really not that crazy. Then the deeper work is in becoming the word. So if that's something you are interested in, I'm going to link both in the show notes that will be available to you. And next week, I'm not sure if I'm going to bring in some more psychological breakdown of Persephone. I just did Persephone. It was my last episode. So I probably will just keep that one on Instagram. But I will drop an episode next week because I've got a few in the bank and I'm ready to start editing. So I will see you soon. I will see you next week. Next week, I'm going to have long hair again because that's going to be an old episode. But thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. Thank you for taking the first step of not only having this beautiful goddess energy, archetype, whatever you're calling her, whatever it resonates within your body, as somebody to help guide you, but to also take the next step, which is embodying that energy that also lives within you so that you're taking steps, even if they're stumbles, forward instead of always taking them back. Thank you. I love you. I'll see you in the next spiral.